Hey everybody, it is 9:45 at night here in Valencia, and the temperature is a lovely 98 degrees. Fortunately, there's only 20% humidity. Earlier today, the high was 108, which the Spanish Weather Service said felt like 110. Of course, my response to that was, at that level, does it really matter that much? So it was hot today, and we spent most of the day inside just because it was blistering. But now that it's a little cooler and things are a little nicer, I wanted to do a quick video going over some of the differences that we are perceiving between life in the United States and life in Spain. And these are really um, rough first impressions, but I wanted to give some idea of the things that had really had been impressed on us so far. So first and foremost, and in keeping with the weather, is air conditioning. Now, central air conditioning is extremely rare in Spain, and most places have split units. Where we are living, we have three split units, one that's upstairs in the master bedroom, one that's downstairs in Isaac's bedroom, and one that's in the main living area. And they do a wonderful job of keeping us cool, even down to USA, North Carolina standards. But for example, when we go to the big mall, which is about a mile down the street, all of the shops are air conditioned. But the public spaces, they're air conditioned, but they are not air conditioned to a level that we would find comfortable in the United States. Doesn't seem to bother anybody else. Everybody carries fans, little fans, and you can see everyone on the street fanning themselves or in the malls fanning themselves, men and women. So it's kind of cliche. I know we think of some Spanish women with their fans, but it's not just the women, it's everybody. And this is not a affectation. It is an important thing to have when the temperature gets like this. The other thing that's really different is laundry. Now, in our apartment, and this is very common, we have a washing machine. We do not have a dryer. We have a drying rack. We have a clothesline. And to be honest with you, the washer is by American standards tiny. We literally do a load of clothes almost every day. When it's a day to do the sheets, that's an all-day affair. When it's this hot and the humidity's that low, though, you don't really miss a dryer very much because things dry out pretty quick. But it is very different. Anne says that if we ever have to do the comforters or anything like that, we'll need to take them to one of the local laundromats because literally they will not fit into the washer that we have. Another big difference is public transportation. Now, for those of us in smaller cities like Greensboro or Durham or Raleigh, public transportation is buses, and almost everybody has a car and very few people use the bus, and sometimes it's a little stigmatized. Now, as you may or may not know, Victoria, our daughter, lives in New York. And so we've had a lot of experience with public transportation from our times in New York. And the differences between public transportation in the United States and public transportation in Spain are very, very big. The buses here, everybody uses the buses. When you get on the bus, there can be a homeless guy in the back and a woman dressed in Balenciaga in the front. Everyone is polite, and I've found this out because I guess that I have reached the age where people will give up their seats to me on the bus. Last night, coming home from the train station, a homeless guy carrying, he was pushing a cart of stuff, got up and gave me his seat because I evidently am elderly here in Spain. Um, it's that level of politeness and that level of cooperation. You don't have to have people yelling at each other to get to the back of the bus. Everybody just does it. And that was really surprising. The buses are clean, they're on time, they're pretty well air conditioned, and they're not terribly crowded. We've been on maybe one really crowded bus, and that was on a weekday afternoon, and it was on the bus line that goes from the center of the city out to the beaches. And everybody and their dog were on the bus heading for the beach. But the metro system is all tied together. The buses, the trams, the subways, you have one card. And just to give you an idea of cost, I have a card now which is called, it is the, I can't remember it's a Suma card, but it is for the gente mayor, the older people. And it's a 30-day card, and I can go on any bus, on any tram, on any subway for a month period for €9. Isaac has the Carnet Joven, or the young person's card, which, by the way, in Spain is available from age 14 to age 31. And for that, you have a month of unlimited travel on all three systems for €14.50. Compare that to the best price you can get in New York, which is either $2.50 or $3 per ride. So it is a significant savings. Now, the other thing that I wanted to bring up, there's a difference, is the availability of food. One of the things that we worry about in the United States is the presence of food deserts. There are areas like in Greensboro and in Winston-Salem that we had looked at when we were at Wake Forest and looking at the availability of healthy food for our pregnant patients. And they're just areas that were not served. There's no such thing as a food desert, at least not in Valencia. If you go on Google Maps and you search for groceries, the map lights up and there's groceries everywhere. There is a grocery store that is 3 blocks from us, and then 2 blocks from that grocery store is a fruit and vegetable stand. There are fruit and vegetable stands everywhere along with the grocery stores. So the food is available, it is easily available, and it is much, much cheaper. Now, except for the beef. The beef is about the same. But just to give you an example, Ann and I are gorging ourselves on peaches. And it shames me to have to say this as a son of the South, but the peaches that are available at my local fruit stand are head and shoulders above the best things I ever got at the farmer's market in Greensboro. Every single one of them has been perfect, and they are available for €1.80 per kilo, or about 90 cents a pound. The other vegetables that we buy from the fruit and vegetable seller, equally cheap. So, and there's a large selection. So, you can't find jackfruit and dragon fruit. And to be honest with you, it's been kind of hard to find fresh basil. I found it like in one place. But basic foodstuffs are everywhere. They are cheap. You can another example, you can go to the little supermarket down in our neighborhood, which is one of the mid-range Spanish chains, and they have fresh bread. and you can get what is essentially a fresh baguette um, for 69 cents. So call it about 80, 90 cents. And this is of a quality equal to anything you would get from the baguette pile at Harris Teeter. When Isaac first had his first sandwich made out of that stuff, he said, "Oh my God, this doesn't taste anything like bread like we got at home." And he was right. It was good, it was fresh, and it was cheap. Um, since we're kind of going on foodstuffs, one of the things that we got to talk about is coffee. Now, those of you who know me and know Anne, you know that we are huge coffee people. And uh, the morning latte is it's our bonding time. It's really kind of our love language. This is the time that we spend together. So one of the first things we had to do was get an espresso machine, which we did. The trouble then arose in finding good coffee beans because they're very hard to find and they are a lot more expensive. One of the things that goes on in Spain is that a lot of the coffee is roasted by a process called torreficación, which the coffee beans are sugared a little bit before they're roasted. And to me, this makes it a little bitter. So you have to find coffee that is natural. It's expensive. It's about double the price of what we paid in Greensboro. The other thing that we cannot find that does not exist here in Spain is half and half, because we made our lattes with half and half. There ain't you say that in a grocery store and they just look at you blankly. We've ended up having to make our own by trial and error by mixing whole milk and heavy whipping cream. What we found out is that if you make it half and half, it's going to be way too creamy, because whipping cream in the United States can legally be anywhere from 18 to 30% fat, butter fat. Whipping cream in Spain has to be between 30 and 35%. So it's taken some trial and error to get it right, but we've kind of gotten it down. But it did take a while. The other thing we can't find, Splenda. Now, we've been able to find a sucralose blend that is similar to Splenda, but it's just, when coffee is that big a part of your life, you want it to be consistent, and we're just going to have to get used to what we can get. We did, however, find Kirkland's French roast. That's another story. But we went to Madrid. I had an appointment to work on Isaac's Social Security, and while we were in Madrid, we went over to the Costco, and glory be, they had their French roast, the Kirkland's brand, which is the coffee beans we used. And so we got several bags of that brought home. Finally, one of the differences is the question of arts and culture. Unfortunately, in the United States, the arts have gotten a short shrift, and we don't seem to have a public will or a governmental will to invest in arts and culture. And in Spain, very, very different. A couple of days ago, we went to the Fine Arts Museum in Valencia. Admission was free. And not just free that day, not just free for being over 65, not just free because you're under 18. It's free all day, every day. One of their temporary exhibitions was on Peter Paul Rubens, and they had a bunch of Rubens on loan from the Prado. They had one or two of their own, and they had a bunch of his students and contemporary artists as well. It was a wonderful exhibition. Their permanent collection focused on a lot of Valencian artists, and a lot of other Spanish artists, but they had the big names too. They had a couple of Goyas. They had a couple of Velázquez's. Uh, they had a lot of painters that I didn't know. They it was a beautiful museum. It was modern. It was light and airy. It was a wonderful place to go. On another night, at 10 o'clock at night, we went to a free showing of the movie Little House of Horrors, which you may remember from 1986. It had Steve Martin in it, and it was about the man-eating plant. It was in English with Spanish subtitles. It was being screened in the courtyard of a 12th century monastery that was in a little bit north of the old town of Valencia. And as I said, it was free. It was hugely attended. And it was part of an exhibition that has been going on all summer long about American comedies. And this is just a little bit of the investment that the city of Valencia has made in its arts and culture. One of the things that I noticed is that when you go through the museum and you look at the plaques, in most museums it'll tell you how this got here. Usually it's a gift from a foundation or on loan from a private collector. There are many of those paintings there were purchased by the city. The city has a budget for searching out and buying artworks for its museums, which is unfortunately becoming less and less a thing in the United States. So I think that's enough for tonight. Like I said, these are very early impressions. They are they're very rough. And as we spend more time here and get to know the city and culture better, there may be some changes in how we feel about these things, but I will certainly keep you up to date. And as always, please, if you are enjoying my videos, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you and good night.